Are you stuck trying to figure out how you can make enough content? Well, we've got a really simple system and we're going to share it with you in this episode to help you make really great content and lots of it.
You know why I love this? Like after 12 years of running Moonshine Agency with you and 20 years being in this industry, I've seen so many rushers hit the cutting room floor that could have been put to good use. So there is so much that we can get out of doing things in a smarter way in terms of our content creation.
Yeah, so I think the first step is start with your research. Research your topic, figure out exactly what you're going to produce. Are you going to make, I would always recommend make one long form piece of content to start with. So you need to decide, are you making a blog, a video, a podcast, there's all these different...
Interview someone.
Yeah, interview. And is that interview going to be a podcast or is it going to be a video? So pick your overarching content that you're going to produce, podcast, blog or video, usually the typical three.
Yep.
And then research the topic of that video, figure out exactly what you're going to make, how long it's going to be, and that's your master episode.
Yeah, spot on. And then just let it run, let the camera run. Once you've put the cameras and lights and microphones out, let it go, do a broad ranging piece of content creation because you'll be able to cut that into something long and then into many short things for lots of different platforms, and that is by far the best way to get value for money out of your content creation.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing people don't understand is that if you've got this one great piece of content, you can slice and dice it, you can cut it up. But we've talked about this on a number of episodes, how to repurpose your content. So you can take you can transcribe it, you can take those transcriptions and make quote cards for, Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is.
A single comment can be gold. Like putting it together into a longer film, all of your content can be a fantastic experience, and a real deep dive for your audience. But just little moments, little grabs can be so useful to you, particularly in social media, where many of the platforms prefer that short form content.
Yeah, so you can take that one thing and you can transcribe it, use that transcription to create the blog. You can then use the blog to read as your podcast. You can cut it into all different small chunks and use that across all your different social media platforms. And then the other part of this that keeps this content creation really simple is do that for 4 or 5 different topics and produce it all at the one time. So do all your research on your topics, maybe research 5 topics. And then once you've got all your cameras and lights set up, don't just do one and then try and come back the next week and do the second one and so on and so forth. Do 4 or 5 in one go. You've got your whole month's content there and then you can just roll it out.
Big guy, what do you got to say about batching?
Batching is an efficient way to do it.
Yeah, he makes a really good point because you do need to have professional standards and sometimes you will need to get help and equipment in to do this job properly, to do this work properly. But the way you've talked about batching it, where you do 4 or 5 longer pieces of content in a day and then slice and dice it so it feeds your communications needs for a whole month, that's really efficient. And that's a great way to make the use of your video production company so they're not coming in, bumping out, setting up, taking all of that time. Once they're in, make the most of them.
So there you go. There's a really simple system for creating lots and lots of content really simply, and it means that you can get into a rhythm of it, which means you're not doing, the random acts of marketing where you do 1 and then you do 3 and then you do none for months. You ghost your audience and then everything becomes pretty ineffective. So research your topics. Produce whatever the master content you're going to produce is, cut it into all different shapes and sizes and put it across all your different social media platforms and create a bunch of content all in the one day. So do 4 or 5 right there. I mean, you could do more if you've got the energy. I would find more than 5 a lot, but you could if you wanted to. And then you can batch it and then got your content for weeks.
Yeah, that's great. And the only thing I'd add to that is, you'll have a production plan and a schedule, but you don't have to stick to it like glue because those random things that happen through interactions, through conversations when you're creating content are often the gold that you can use for social media. So let it run a bit. Let there be some unscripted moments. I personally love when I'm listening to an audio book when the author just decides to go off on a bit of a tangent, and give you that extra that's only in the audio book. Same same thing when you're doing a day of production like this. So I think there's so much opportunity to make the most of all of those offcuts that you often wouldn't make the cut if you're only making one thing, but if you're making 20 or 30 things, it's a totally different scenario. So what's the call to action for today?
Well, firstly, love to know what you think. How do you create your content? How do you get the most out of the content you do create? And please subscribe, because we would love to have you come back and visit us for the next episodes.